What's up, gang? Thanks for tuning in to an all-new episode of the OH.Report video podcast. I am Brian Skronsky with you for Season 4, Episode 20. So for all my cool cats out there having a good night, you know what I'm talking about. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope that you had a really super week last week. Of course, America's big thing all went down yesterday, the game, and maybe you were able to have some good times, kick back with some of your friends, but that Super Bowl hangover, I think it's kind of real. I'd like to go out on a limb here and say that maybe it needs to be a national holiday. A lot of the ones that we currently have, I think they're for good use. However, we could probably make a little bit better use out of the Monday after the Super Bowl, just having that a national day off where we all get to recover, if you will, because it's a long day. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that coverage, it starts at like 9 a.m. And then in my household, where I've got a wife that likes to cook, doesn't really care that much about sports, it's like one thing after another. It's a meat tray followed by a big meat platter, and then we got a dessert of some more meat. There's a lot of dips to go on throughout the day, so it's like 5, 6, 7 hours nonstop of just eating, doing a little bit of drinking too, and just overall just enjoying the day. So I don't know if Trump has signed the maximum amount of executive orders that he can, but if he's watching, Donald, if you're out there right now and you're tuning in, maybe think about changing America, making it great again with one day off after that Super Sunday. I think they estimate, what I saw was 115 million people were going to tune in and watch the Super Bowl yesterday. That's kind of hard to wrap your head around, because that's like a third of the entire country all sitting down and tuning in. So it just lets you know the power of NFL football and just how big it is. For some people, what I think is cool about it, they're tuning in for the game. People like me, others, they just want to see what's the next new funny commercial, those ads, the halftime entertainment. We'll talk about that here in a second. So there's a lot to really take away from the Super Bowl and the festivities and the parties. But this is what I've found out, at least just for me personally, is that when I was a little bit younger, I was all about getting as many people over to either my house, or I was trying to go somewhere where it was more about the chitter chatter, maybe some of the side conversations, tipping back a couple with some of your homies instead of really focusing on the game. Whereas now that I'm a little bit more mature and seasoned, I really care about the football. I want to sit down, I want to have my little sliver of the couch, and of course, like I said, I need that 5-course meal coming, but I really want to focus in and dial in on the action in the game, and then during the commercials sometimes, I'll tell some fun stories or whatever. But I'm just kind of curious how you guys out there like to take in your Super Bowl activities. So I got the Facebook chat pulled up right now on my computer. Let me know, how many people do you feel like maybe is too many for a Super Bowl party? How did you watch it yesterday? Let me know in the comment section. Anybody who fills me in, I'll read that live over air, and then we can debate. But I've got Adam Thompson producing for me in the back right now, and he, even though works in the sports industry here at the OH Report, I don't know that he pays that much attention outside of going to the high school games to sporting events. So I'm curious, Adam, A, did you tune in, and B, for how long?
I tuned in at halftime when the missus came in and said, "Hey, is the halftime show started yet? Because I really want to see Kendrick Lamar." Mm-hmm. But no, I typically stay away from pro sports. I used to be a fan. We just deal with so much sports that I take my days off and try to not sport it up so much. So I'm aware that it happened. I'm aware of the implications that were on the line, and we've got a family member that's a diehard Eagles fan, so we were all rooting for the Chiefs.
Of course.
You can't root for your family's team. You got to have some rivalry in there. So we didn't watch the game itself. At one point, our OH Report group text popped up and alerted me that the score bug might be having some issues. So I tuned in, and no, that was by design for whatever reason. And as our graphics guy, I gotta say, I feel like I've been putting in way too much work these last 5 years. I literally just could have put a red and a green rectangle on this the screen and said score.
Yeah, man. You're trying way too hard.
Yeah.
Just give me a KC and a PHI, and like you said, a couple of rectangles, and we'll just go from there. And our group chat, obviously, we deal with this stuff every single week, every day, and the scoreboards and all the graphics. I really thought when they brought it up for the first time that it just didn't load correctly, and I was like, what a time to have a snafu during the Super Bowl when all the eyes are on you. Like 115 million people are watching, and your scoreboard's not working. The fact that that's what they went with, it seemed like that was one of the most picked apart things about the game on Twitter that I saw yesterday. So NFL, step it up. I'm not so sure that Fox did themselves any favors by bringing out that as, minimalist scoreboard as they could possibly have.
There's minimal, and then there's we forgot to finish it. My favorite quote or joke I saw online was they spent so much on Tom Brady to call the game that their graphics department got about $7 to finish it. For $7, that's not bad.
Could be true, man. Well, halftime show, you said that that's when you got drug in and you saw Kendrick Lamar's performance. Mixed reviews that I saw on the Twitter. The young kids were all in for it. They really enjoyed him. Some of the old hats, not so much. I know the Black America, they were all in. A lot of Kendrick fans out there in their community. So what did you think about the halftime performance? Because I kind of mixed reviews in my mind, too.
Well, the halftime performance for me personally didn't sing out to me. I'm not a big hip-hop listener, but I'm a very understanding person when it comes to what's happening with the Super Bowl and any Super Bowl. They've already got the diehard sports fans. You guys are going to watch no matter what happens. They could have my daughter out there playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star at halftime. You're going to grumble, and you're going to watch it.
Right.
They're trying to just get it for everybody. So to me, what I really took away from it, it just felt very undercooked. Like the performance itself was fine, but it wasn't a show. That was a music video rehearsal, and we all got to check it out. Very cool stuff happening. No costume changes, no chance for a wardrobe malfunction. Where's my nip slips? There was no crazy contraptions. The coolest thing you had was Sam Jackson starting things off, which I definitely thought was a neat cameo.
That was sweet.
But even then, I was like, did they accidentally turn on a Capital One commercial? There's Sam Jackson, and then there's Capital One Sam Jackson, and that's who I felt like we got. So, yeah, it wasn't for me. They weren't making it for me. But even the people that I think they were making for, I feel like that show was lackluster for a Super Bowl performance. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like I haven't liked a halftime show in probably 12 years. So to me, it's like it's never been for that. But I've seen much more entertaining ones. So this one just didn't hit it for me as far as biggest football game of the year, bring out everything. So maybe it's just over my head. The messages were there, and I didn't read them. The music didn't get to me, but that's not for me. So that was my take on it. Just
you want a little bit more pyrotechnics, maybe some more Peter
something.
Pan, some things floating around high up in the stadium. I get it. I'm with you.
It should be enough to where the average viewer that has no idea who that is tuned in going, wow, what is this? I knew what that was.
I would say he gets about a B. He's trying to promote the new album. It's not easy for hip-hop artists to go out there and do what he did. I think it's a lot simpler for the females to be able to do it, like we saw with Riri last year. And even though she was pregnant, they're able to have her bust out a series of dance moves, put her up on some big platforms. But I feel you on the fact that they kind of, just like the scoreboard, maybe they watered it down a little bit too much. They had a bunch of backup dancers and some outfits there that you see try to make the flag and stuff. So it was okay, but nothing groundbreaking. Better than the game, though, I gotta say, was hey, you tuned in at halftime. You pretty much saw everything that you needed to see, bro. I mean, it was over. It was a wrap. The Eagles put it on them, and I was kind of stunned to see that Kansas City did not put up quite the fight that I was anticipating. And I'm the exact opposite of you. I got a lot of Chiefs fans on my side of the family out in Colorado, so they did not have a good time watching A.J. Brown, MVP Jalen Hurts and the boys put it on them. And that defensive line, it is scary. So a little bit of conversation I think probably needs to be had now about, can the Eagles be the new dynasty in town, since they've been to 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls? Should have won the one, I think, a couple of years ago, where Jalen Hurts was outlandishly, deliciously awesome, just like he was yesterday. So it could be the Eagles now that are going to start becoming the new Mahomes of the NFC and taking over. So this could be a rivalry that we get real sick of when we had like Cavs, Warriors, all those years in a row. I could potentially see these two teams going head-to-head for many years to come.
After just, I don't know, man, these Eagles, I'm glad that they got their thing. And at least we got a non-Chiefs winning Super Bowl. But they still made it to the Super Bowl. You're still there. You're still losing more than most people are even making it to.
Indeed. Well, you guys have made it here to the podcast. You've already watched the Super Bowl. You know all about it. We're not going to continue to belabor the point, but not a great game, of course. I know the NFL wished that it would have been a little bit tighter, 40-22, and it was definitely not that close. But you got to salute, tip your cap to the Eagles for getting it done. And for Mahomes, too, he's had a couple of stinkers in those 2 Super Bowl losses, so he is somewhat human, even though I think he's definitely maybe number 2 already in that GOAT conversation, or teeter-tottering right up there within the top 3. So he needs a few more years and at least one more chip before he starts solidifying himself at that number 2 spot. But he definitely not over the guy that was on the commentary yesterday, and Mr. Tom Brady. On tonight's show, guys, we are going to talk about a little bit different playoffs. The girls basketball tournament tips off this week. We've got a ton of action going down live and free right here on the OH Report, like you already know. But I'm going to break down a few of the brackets for you. I think I've got 4 on the menu, and I'm just going to dissect them just a little bit, give you a couple of tasty little morsels, and give you some feedback about what is to come in the girls basketball tournament. Also, the Lucky 7 is back this week. We're still not creative enough to come up with a new lingo for it, so we'll just break down the 7 best things that we saw over the last 7 days. Maybe the Lucky 7 is going to be the name for it, who knows, but the 7 coolest things that happen on the OH Report platforms as voted on by all of the OH reporters. Pretty much everybody just kind of tosses in one, and then I shake them out. We'll have Adam bring those up for you. But joining us tonight to start off the show is a budding track and field superstar, now at the collegiate stage, who was so good during her high school senior year that she finished 2nd in the state all by herself in Division II, and now dominating the competition at the Division I college level. Please welcome 2023 Highland grad and now a University of Cincinnati star, Mrs. Juliette. I'm not exactly sure how to say your last name. I'm gonna have you say it for me. Bust it out for me, Juliette. Is it LaRacuenté-Huebner?
LaRacuenté-Huebner.
Say it one more time.
LaRacuenté-Huebner.
LaRacuenté-Huebner. An awesome name for an awesome star. Did you watch the Super Bowl yesterday?
No, I didn't. We were traveling back from a competition in Nebraska all day, and I got home pretty late, so I did not get a chance to watch it, but I also don't really watch football that much, so I didn't care that much.
So if you tuned in, you might be more interested in the commercials and the halftime show than the actual gameplay itself?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so let's say that you're at a Super Bowl party, even though you're not paying attention to the game, and you're grabbing some of the foods on the side, because that's what it's about, I think, for most Americans, is not actually the game, but what you're able to eat. As a dedicated collegiate athlete that's been doing a phenomenal job, how much do you really have to have that dialed in all the time, or do you get a cheat day or two, because you are, let's face it, just 20 years old, so you can probably grab a couple of extra pieces of cheesecake or whatever?
Yeah, I just kind of grab what I'm hungry for. I try not to limit myself in what I eat and what I don't eat. Obviously, I like to be balanced, but you know, if I'm at a Super Bowl party, then I'm going to eat the food that's there and I'm going to have a good time. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm too disciplined in the food that I eat. I feel like from high school, I was already eating pretty healthy, so I just carried those habits into college, and I don't really get pressured into eating anything crazy, so yeah.
Do you have any one guilty pleasure, though, that if you see something on the table, you can't help it? You're going to have to grab it?
Probably cookies or pizza. Yeah.
You ever put them together and try that?
No. Oh my gosh, I don't think that would be too good.
Yeah, probably wouldn't. I'm surprised that someone's had to have invented a cookie pizza at some point, but maybe not, because maybe no one's going to eat it. All right, let's talk about your track and field at UC. Super successful freshman season in multiple events, broke some school records. So tell me how you were able to literally hit the ground running, going from high school and have an instant impact there at the D1 level.
I think a lot of it has to do with kind of the attitude I had my senior year. My senior year, I started training with a club based in Columbus, Ohio, Ohio Speed Academy, to work on developing my sprints and my hurdles. And I continued working with my other coaches, Mike Ryder and Nia Smith, in the jumps area. And just being surrounded by people at OSA, and even when I would do my privates and stuff who are better than me, that definitely pushed me, and prepared me for the collegiate level, because you come to college and, even though I was the top dog in high school, I was not the top dog coming in. And it definitely just put a lot of pressure on you to just like continue to perform and continue to put out, what is expected and what you were doing in high school. So, yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it. And then just coming into a really good program, like I said, with people who are better than me, but also a coach who was similar to the coaches I had in high school and who knew how to push me in the right ways.
And then how about going from a small town? I've been down to Marengo many times, and obviously there's like maybe one stoplight, a whole lot of rural area, probably more cows than people down there. So you go from that to the third largest city in the state of Ohio. What type of transition and transformation did you have to make as a human being just living day-to-day life?
It was definitely hard at first. I think the biggest thing that I struggled with a lot was my sleep, just because, I live in the middle of nowhere. There's no lights. And no cars really that are driving by. So, I lived in an apartment complex last year where there was construction literally right outside my window, and that was waking me up at like 6:30 every single day. So that was definitely hard. But yeah, and then the college life, just all the bustling people and cars, and it was just definitely a culture shock at first. But I got pretty used to it pretty quickly because I kind of was forced to. So I don't know. It was a little crazy. I feel like a lot of people would experience kind of similar things as I did.
Your college life looks super busy. I was going through your Instagram account a little bit earlier today in preparation for this interview and getting a chance to talk to you. So I think we got those video clips. A day in the life of you as a college athlete. You did it as a freshman, and then you did it once this year. So we're going to show the videos, and then just take me through just how much this looks like, honestly, a normal day for you and everyday life in Cincinnati.
Okay. So I guess my Tuesdays and Thursdays are the busiest days of my week. Tuesdays, for example, or both days, I have practice at 8:30 a.m. because of my class schedule. So I'll go and practice for about an hour to an hour and a half. And then I have to come home and shower really quickly, or shower in the locker room and go straight to class, which is all the way on med campus. So that's about a 10-minute bike ride or a 10-minute car drive, whichever one I'm able to do. And I'm in class from 11 to 20, and then I come back and we have meetings and other things I have to get done, or I have to go see the trainers to get some work done. But yeah, that's like honestly a typical day, really almost every single week. The only difference is that my practices are in the afternoons and my classes are a little earlier. So it's crazy, kind of. I'm never home. I feel like I'm gone for at least 12 hours a day, and it's insane sometimes.
Yeah, that's super hectic, and carrying obviously a big load with schoolwork, and then also having to do your track and field all the time. So here it is. Here's the video. So you're getting around. You're having to do a lot of studying, obviously a lot of eating. Now you're out at the track. Now you're outdoors. So getting some shakes when you can, lifting weights all the time. And this is pretty typical for a normal day for you right now?
Yes, yeah. That's actually Friday night too, so I got a little bit of free time in the evening, but usually I'm doing schoolwork every single like hour and minute that I'm able to, just because of how much I have to do and how busy I am. I never have time really any other times except for in the 5 minutes in between, practice and lift, or, in the 2 hours I have before I have to go to bed.
Pretty awesome. So what are you majoring in right now?
I am in the undergrad for speech pathology and audiology. I am wanting to go more the audiology route, and then I'm also getting a certificate in deaf studies.
Which is super cool, and you informed me right before we got on the air here that you have a grandparent who is deaf, so this is something that is near and dear to your heart. How much has it come in handy being able to know sign language and being able to communicate with really anybody?
Yeah, so both my dad's parents are deaf, and that was his first language too. So growing up, we kind of learned ASL and stuff, but I felt like I didn't really get interested in it really until high school. And I started taking some classes and then came to college and changed my major from nursing to the undergrad I'm in now. And just having that background and, knowledge of the people in the community who I'm going to be serving the most in my future profession is definitely helped me a lot. And the perspectives I get and the conversations I'm able to have with professors and other peers and stuff. So it's definitely a blessing, and I wouldn't change anything for the world.
Can you show off real fast and just do a little demonstration? Show me through your hand signals. Do everybody should watch OH.Report.
Everybody watch.
That's okay. So everybody.
Everyone.
Oh boy.
And then must. With one finger.
Okay, get my claw going.
Must.
Got it.
And then watch. Like this. Yep, watch. Okay. And then O. H.
Yep.
And then R. E. P. Like a peace sign, but upside down. Yep. And then
got it.
O. R. And then T.
Bravo, you make it look so easy. Oh my gosh, I'm exhausted over here. All right, so your grandparents are influences on you. Obviously, you look back to your high school days where you were an unbelievable athlete. In that realm, as a track and field athlete and then as a student athlete as well, who would you say were the top influences for you growing up?
Definitely my parents. Growing up, they put me in gymnastics, and I attribute a lot of, my athletic abilities and my attitude towards sports and really just everything that I do towards that. And, without them, I feel like I would have never been in the place that I am now. I would never be going to the D1 level. I would never achieve what I did in high school without their support and, allowing me to drive 45 minutes to Columbus and then 45 minutes back at 10 p.m. at night my senior year and stuff. So they've definitely just, pushed me to just be the best person and athlete and human that, I can be. And yeah, it's really just them who have inspired me to do my best in everything that I do.
Senior year was crazy for you. You dominate the indoor track and field. You go 4 for 4 in your events. And then in Columbus for the outdoor state championships, not just 4 for 4, you're setting state records. You're taking second place as an individual human for the entire team competition in Division II. So when you reflect back on both of those memories, but probably mostly just from Columbus, what were your favorite moments? Because there's a lot to choose from.
I think, my favorite moment was probably I think I have two. I think I have to say the indoor state meet after, finishing triple jump in that 4x4, being done, and I realized I had won it, and all my coaches were there, my high school coaches, my club coaches, my parents, just everyone was there supporting me, and that was just like crazy because it was like, oh my gosh, like that just happened. It had been done before, but it hasn't happened in so long. And then outdoor was a whole different beast because if you've ever been at the, Jesse Owens Stadium, it's just like insane. The amount of people who come out and watch and just support all the athletes all day. And, I crossed that finish line in the 200 and I really don't even remember running it. The only thing I remember is coming around that turn and hearing my coach yelling at me. And then as you can see, I'm falling to the ground and I really don't remember anything. And then just the amount of support I got, and even though I got second and I wanted that first place, it was still just like crazy that I did it, and everyone was kind of like bombarding me and just making me feel so supported at the same time.
The intensity that's on your face when you're coming down that backstretch in the 200, if you could just bottle that up and sell that, I think there's a lot of athletes that would want to have that sent all the time. That's unbelievable, just that look of wanting to persevere there at the end. So 8 events, 8 gold medals for you. Where do you keep them? Where are they all hanging at now?
They are in a box in my parents' house, but they're not just in the box. They're like hanging on a little like chair that we have, because we use them for my senior pictures and my grad party and stuff. So they are on there. But like my national title and stuff from New Balance, we put that in a little case with my bib and all that other stuff. So some of it is, nicely done, and I'm gonna move into my own place and stuff.
Eventually, you're just going to have your own room, right, for all the collections of the different jerseys and the medals. And there's probably, actually, not batons. You've never really done relays, right? You've always been more into the individual events?
I did relay my sophomore year of high school with 3 athletes, McKenna Belcher, Brylan Tuggle, and Peyton Carpenter. And we ended up getting 6th, I believe, at state in the 4x1. So I have done a relay, and I do, some competitions, they give you like a relay baton as like, here's like a little gift or something. So I do have a few of those, even though that's the only time I really ever ran a relay.
Okay, well, it's indoor season for you right now, so the season never really ends. You're always training, you're always getting into stuff. You were just in Nebraska competing in the pentathlon, I do believe. So for any of us track stooges out there that don't really understand what's all involved in that, I know that you do all the events. Like you're capable of doing all of them. What did you compete in this past weekend in Nebraska?
So I ended up doing the pentathlon at Nebraska, and it's just a one-day event. You start off the day with the 60-meter hurdles, and then you finish that, and you have 30 minutes to go in high jump. And then after that, you have 30 minutes to get warmed up for shot put. And then after that, 30 minutes for long jump. And then sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's 15 minutes before the 800-meter to finish off the event. And it's kind of weird because the scoring, it's like there's scoring inside of the event itself. So it's based on the world record and how close you get to that. And you get so many points per event, and then they add it up in total in the end, and that's how you event.
How many people were competing at the event, and where did you place?
I believe that there were 13 or 14 of us, and I ended up winning the event, which was really exciting. I had a 20-point pentathlon PR. Thank you. Even though I PR'd in the overall event, but I didn't really PR in any other individual events, but I had a pretty good day, so that put out a pretty good mark in the pentathlon.
Yeah, so when you're competing in that many different events, how do you prioritize training? Are you actually working on everything every day, or how do you even break that down?
So we do each event at least once a week. For some of the events where I struggle a little bit and just have a tougher time with once a week practice, such as shot put or high jump, we'll sometimes do those twice a week. But like Monday today, for example, I had shot put and a little bike workout since we did just, compete in a pretty rigorous event this past weekend. Tomorrow I have jav balls, which javelin is more outdoor heptathlon, but we still kind of practice it a little bit indoor. We have jav stuff, and then high jump, and then the next day we have, I believe, long jump and hurdles. And then the day after that, we have an 800 workout. And then after that, we have some speed work. We're doing some sled pulls and some block starts. So yeah, every event gets worked on at least once a week.
Now I see why you're running 12-hour days and you never get an opportunity to stop and take breaks and go home if you're trying to train for all the events, Juliette. That's ridiculous. But I have heard Olympians like Noah Lyles, he famously said, the 100-meter is my wife, the 200 is kind of my side chick. So if you had to order down the events and give me your favorite that you like training and competing in, and then maybe pick your top 3 or 4 and then go from there, what are your favorite events to actually get ready for and then ultimately compete in?
To get ready for and kind of compete in, probably my top one is long jump, just because I feel like, it's a little bit of the easiest event. You're kind of just running and jumping. There's a lot of technique to it too, but it is fairly easy compared to the rest of them. And then after that, I'd say hurdles, just because, it's simple. You're running over a barrier. There's technique to it again, but if you're not fast, you're not gonna do that well. And then next, I'd probably say the 800. Just kind of running workouts and stuff. That's fairly simple, and then it goes down to high jump, and which, in high school was probably, I mean, I set the state record in that event in outdoor, but it's definitely like the hardest event to do technically, and just, I'm a shorter high jumper, so I have to be on point, kind of in my whole approach, versus someone who's like 6 feet. They can kind of get away with a lot of the positions, so that's just been a little frustrating, even in high school. And then last would probably be shot put, just because, or any of the throws really, including javelin outdoor, but just because it's so hard. Never did it in high school, and it's just hard to kind of work on that technique and, be expected to compete it so ever many months later. And, that was just really frustrating coming into college, but starting to piece itself together. So it's kind of moving its way above high jump, but it's still kind of at the bottom there.
Okay, pretty good breakdown. And I love how you're talking about things like hurdles and how quote unquote easy it is. Well, maybe when you're a stud like you, I don't know if I could get over a hurdle if you gave me 100 tries, but I mentioned Noah Lyles, the Olympics. Obviously, the Summer Games just happened in 24, but with the Olympics being in America in 2028, would you say it's a goal of yours to try to compete? And if so, what do you think you would have the best opportunity to make it in?
Yeah, absolutely. The, LA 2028 Olympics is my ultimate goal. I think, achieving that would kind of fulfill my childhood dream of just being an Olympian, period. Before it was gymnastics, and now it's track and field. But the event that I, would compete in would definitely be the heptathlon outdoor, the 2-day event, multi. But just because, I'm proficient in the other events, but not at the Olympic level like I, believe I can be in the heptathlon.
Like a number of college sports, after it's all over, track and field, there's just not a lot of pro leagues. I'm aware of the Diamond League. Obviously, there's world championships, there's national championships. Have you thought much, though, about what your skill set, other than just being really cool at a party and being able to jump over a couch, or you run way faster if you're trying to go get in line to the refrigerator first or something like that? Have you thought about what you can actually do with your skill set post-college?
I think sports teaches, if you're an athlete, high school, kid or collegiate, it teaches you a lot about discipline and hard work. And I think you can apply that in any area of your life. And, I would say that I'm disciplined, I'm hardworking. And, when I go into the audiology field, for example, I am definitely going to have those skill sets to be a proficient and a, good practitioner and good clinician for my patients. So yeah, I think those skills, which you probably weren't looking for, but those skills coming out of athletics is definitely what's going to help me in the future.
I think social media too right now, while you're competing at the collegiate level, that's huge. It's blowing up. I'm seeing NIL deals for a lot of athletes out there, just being able to use their voice and then their platform and then their followers to a good purpose. So for you as a young lady, it's a little bit different. For the boys, obviously they just have to throw on some mixtapes, maybe a cool dunk, and then they can get some NIL money or something like that. But it seems like there has to be an extra layer to it when you're a female athlete, where you have to have kind of the right look. You want to have your hair on point, you're wearing makeup when you're doing some of this stuff, and just overall the fashion and everything. So how much is that is like a part of your life right now, and just trying to really make the most of it while you are at the top of your game as a college athlete, and tie the two together?
NIL has definitely given me a lot of opportunities. Currently, I have a deal with this skincare company called Good Molecules, and then I also have an ongoing deal with MedPace, which is they do medical research. And then I have another deal with a clothing company called Me Active, which are a small business based here in Cincinnati. And I feel like NIL for a lot of athletes, it's new, it's exciting, and it can be a bit of a distraction. But if you utilize the tools and everything that the companies are giving you in a correct way, then it can definitely boost you in so many other ways, like resume building and stuff like that. Like, for example, my Good Molecules NIL deal is more like, I feel like, an internship where I'm getting taught how to use Excel, and I have to do invoices, and I have to collect data for their company. So, NIL deals aren't just all about posting yourself on social media and doing stuff for the company, but some companies go the extra step and provide you in some of the steps that you need in the professional field, which is definitely exciting. And yeah, just being able to kind of connect those two in like a way that I feel like people wouldn't really guess is, definitely very helpful and interesting. And it's just, yeah, it's exciting. And I'm happy to be a part of the generation and the group of collegiate athletes that kind of get to experience this and be kind of like the guinea pigs for the NCAA. So yeah, it's just really exciting.
Appreciate that really deep dive and really explaining exactly all the opportunities that you have and how you're able to use it not just for money or benefit, but obviously looking forward towards your career and just getting some life experience. Who would have thought making an Excel spreadsheet would be fun? My producer in the back was like, yes, because that's his world. He's always living there. As far as the female athletes right now that you're seeing as maybe not social media influencers, but they're doing a good job at marketing themselves, who would you say are some that you look up to and you kind of aspire to be like how they're presenting themselves on social media?
I think one of the biggest ones is someone like Gabby Thomas. She is an Olympian. She, graduated from Harvard, I believe, if I'm correct. But she is currently training and, made the Olympic Games and won a gold medal this past Summer Olympics. But she's also doing stuff with a nonprofit organization. And I can't remember exactly what the company does, but she got her major in sciences and stuff, master's degree. And just, having someone who is a STEM major, female athlete, and which can be so demanding and just so takes so much out of you sometimes, but she achieved, her hobbies and her goals outside of the track is just definitely really inspiring. And she just presents herself in such a poised and professional way, but also, keeps that strong side of her and that athletic side of her out there. I think it's just really inspiring and something that I want to also emulate.
Well, I think it's super cool to see how well you're doing at college here in just the young portion, your freshman and sophomore season, and the way that you conduct yourself on social media. We follow you at the OH Report. We're big fans of the way that you're able to present yourself and all of your accolades and everything that you've done so far. So I know it's going to be a smash hit when you get to that outdoor season here this spring. We're going to be keeping an eye, Juliette, and really do appreciate you giving us some time, giving us some insight, and keep up the good work down there in UC.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much. Juliette LH, we'll just call her LH because I already forgot exactly how to say it. I got the Huebner part down. I'll make sure that you remember the name though. I'll probably have to learn how to sign it. That would be the better way. That way I can never misspeak it. But what a stud in both just sports and life. I think those are the type of role models that I would want my daughter, who is a high school sophomore, to look up to a kid like that, because you see she's so well spoken. She's got it all put together. She's got some great ideas about what she wants to do with her life beyond sports. She's already thinking and processing that information about how being an athlete can help you succeed as a human being. But at the same time, she knows, you know what, I probably got the goods though to be as good as the Olympic type of athletes too. So this is one certainly to keep an eye on. Homegrown, right in our own backyard. Started in the KMAC, moved on to the MOAC her senior year, I do believe Highland did. So Division II, second place, runner up as an individual 4 for 4 her senior year of high school, and getting those 4 state championship medals, and then 4 on the indoor too. But the accolades already starting to pile up. You heard that she won in Nebraska in the pentathlon just this last weekend. So she's a great follow on Instagram. Make sure that you look her up and just keep an eye on that young lady. She's going to do huge things and probably bring it all back full circle. She seems like the type that'll give back to her hometown when it is all said and done. All right, guys, it's time to move on to what we're calling the lucky number 7 here on the OH Report. So the 7 coolest things that happened on our airwaves that our OH reporters were a part of over the last 7 days. 7 things for 7 days, the lucky 7. I'll turn it over to Adam Thompson. What do you got for me this week? Where are we starting with number 1?
LaRacuenté-Huebner.
There it is.
I just wanted to-
LaRacuenté-Huebner.
yeah, I just wanted to drop that out there. Where are we going to start? We're going to start at the beginning. That's where every good story should start, Brian. And this week, Trevin Harris putting up 39 points for those Centerburg Trojans.
39, baby. Good Lord, that's a lot of points. And this guy, I'll tell you this. So when we went and did media day during football season and we were filming with him in the locker room and stuff, I noticed that Trevin looking kind of big this year. You know, he'd been hitting the weights. He's about 6'4", I think. Excellent leaping ability. I had this anticipation that when it got to basketball season that he had this type of game within him. But 39, well, I don't know if I thought he could go for almost a 40 burger. Let me backtrack that a little bit because there's only 32 minutes in a high school game, so that's a lot of scoring and pretty cool to do it in a K-Max showdown as well. So, dang, way to go.
He did
Mr.
that in
Harris.
real life. Most people can't even do that in a video game. Number 2, Brian, of our lucky sevens this week. As soon as I could find, we're on a little smaller real estate here. Colonel Crawford, not the ones that we're used to, but the Colonel Crawford Little Eagles, the 8th graders, they repeat 16-0 as the N10 champions.
Yeah, I'm pretty glad that I ended up fielding this email. I got contacted by a parent about the fact that the Northern 10 championship game was going to be Winford versus Colonel Crawford. The Lady Eagles had a chance to go undefeated throughout their middle school careers, but standing in their way were the Royals led by Miss Paige Sheldon, and then they got a couple of more dynamos as well that are going to be coming up the ranks and playing for Amy Taylor Sheldon when they get into the high school level. So I think that there were about 4 players that I saw on Saturday afternoon in this game that will be instant impact type of players when they get to the high school ranks. And oh, by the way, already they're the 2 best high school teams pretty much right now in the Northern 10. Colonel Crawford, of course, is the champions, but Reese Redmond, a double-double, number 23 right there playing that defense. She had 4 blocks as well. There they are, the champions, but to do it unblemished 2 years in a row, really impressed.
So I got to ask you, the media coaching, how was that post-game interview with an 8th grader?
Fantastic. I thought that she was incredibly thoughtful. She already is learning how to deflect and give a lot of the credit to her teammates, to her coaching staff. So remember the name Reese Redmond. She's already been kind of identified as one of the 40 best 8th graders in the state of Ohio. Yeah, that's right. People are already recruiting and looking at that level. So I saw a little sheet that her name was on, and she's got the skill set. She's 5'10"-ish. She can handle. She can shoot the 3. She can get rebounds, obviously, and just the IQ. So that it was a really good interview, and it was great that she wouldn't do it unless she could have all of her teammates with her. So already, that's a kid that gets it.
So probably still growing is what you're saying.
I think all those kids are still growing, right? They're like 13 and 14.
The scouting at this age. All right, moving on. Number 3, St. Paul, down 10 points. Not at the end of the game. 4th quarter deficit cut against Crestview.
This one, so I tuned into the game late in the 3rd quarter. I think I saw that the Cougars were up 14. I might be exaggerating just a little bit, but they had at least a double-digit lead. They started the 4th quarter with that 10-point cushion, and I don't know what happened, but I saw the final score, and what? So I had to text Jonathan Langdon, who was on the call, and just said, brother, like what did the Cougars melt down? And he said that it was more St. Paul took over. So the Flyers and what they were able to do with McCall and company, they've now made it a winner-take-all showdown for the Firelands Crown, assuming that both of these teams handle their business in their game before that on Saturday night at the Hangar in Norwalk. So you better believe we're going to be there for round 2 of this one. It's been the best rivalry going in the Firelands Conference over the last 3 seasons since the Cougars have been running the show and are the 2-time defending champions. But I don't know that you can just pencil them in and say that they're going to three-peat. Kind of like what we just saw in the Super Bowl yesterday, where I kind of felt like Kansas City, they've got all this momentum, they've got all the experience, and they're going to get it done. Well, that experience didn't pull it off for the Cougars at the end of the game, and not at home either. So I was a little bit shocked, honestly, to see this final score.
And that is not an easy place to go into and pick up a win. The Cougar Den, dangerous. So hats off, St. Paul pulling off not just a win, but a statement win and bringing on another game against Crestview. Let's go. Moving on, K-Mac crowns some bowling champions, Brian. It was the return of the KMAC bowling, and we're moving over here. Travis and I had a fantastic time. It's been 2 years since we had been at Victory Lanes for the KMAC championship, and they rolled out the red carpet as those kids were rolling strikes and spares. Did I do that okay? I tried.
I didn't get a cover 2 years ago. I was a little bit envious of seeing you and Travis out there and covering it this year because bowling's actually a super cool sport. What I love so much about it is that obviously we could go play it right now and on the exact same settings, conditions that these kids have, they're just a whole lot better than us. So I think that's what makes it so interesting for the casual observer. And guess what was the most viewed broadcast that we had last week? That's right. KMAC Bowling Championships. Baby. People are tuning in. They want to see it. And I think a big part of it is because of that exact factor where you're like, well, I could do that. Well, guess what? You can go prove it for like $2.50 if you rent some shoes down there at the Victory Lane. So hats off to all these kids. And hey, you got to also give them some credit for the longevity of it because you guys were there for 5.5 hours, I think. So these kids are non-stop bowling. I can usually hang for about 2 before my elbow starts having a little bit of problems, before I'm like, you know what, I need a little snack break here. So these athletes are just that, and they should be treated as such because that's a long day of bowling that they had to survive. Who ended up winning this whole thing?
All right.
There
So
it
we
is.
can kind of discussing a little bit. So the winners of this event were for the boys, it was Mount Gilead. And for the girls, I believe it was Fredericktown. I'm looking at a much smaller screen right now. But this also determined the conference champions, which Northmore took away the whole thing. So to break that down, and this is why you guys typically don't have me on a mic, conference champions, Northmore girls and boys.
Okay.
The tournament winners were Mount Gilead boys and Fredericktown girls.
Got it.
So pretty cool. We're welcomed, like I said, and everybody out there had a great time. And the best part is you can't really capture it here because we're just doing video. The softball chants, think about that just everywhere, though. It's just 16 lanes of people excitement. It was a great time. 5.5 hours. They took one break at the half-million points, and everybody had a great time. I got to say thank you very much to Lori Reinhardt,
Shout out.
to Russ Montgomery,
Shout
and
out.
Courtney Reinhardt, and Austin. I'm just going to leave it at Austin because I'm not sure his last name. Gracious hosts, fantastic coaches, and I hope we're back for years to come.
Oh, we'll be back, baby.
Moving on, though. We're not quite there yet. Ontario edges Clear Fork at the in-school dual wrestling, baby.
This is one that I've also been watching from afar over the last couple of years, and this was the season that I was like, you know what? I have to get there in person and see what it's all about because the atmosphere, it is about as lit as a candle shop, buddy. Non-stop action. They have all the students all packed in there. It's in the middle of the school day, too. They're probably just coming off of their lunch. So they've got that nice little sugar buzz, and they're ready to just unload that energy on something. And instead of being bouncing around the classrooms and, you know, driving their teachers up the wall, they get to come out and they get to cheer for these awesome wrestlers, two of the very best in the KMAC in Clear Fork and Ontario, who slightly edged the Colts in a duel. But what was fun about it is that it was Ontario. They came out hot, man. They had the lead right from the very beginning. They got a couple of pins, but Clear Fork, 3 straight wins for them, back-to-back pins. They tightened things up, but the Warriors were like, nah, man, we're good. And then they win the last 3 matches, if I'm not mistaken, to go ahead and solidify themselves as the dual champions. But both of these schools had a lot of state-ranked wrestlers. Ontario specifically, I think, had 3 that really feel like they've got an opportunity to get the state and maybe not win it, but place on the bracket, get like in the top 5. So the energy, the environment, second to none that I've ever done for wrestling. This really was cool. So my shout out goes to Jess Brokaw and everybody at Clear Fork Schools that sets it up. They dim the lights. They've got every seat on the visitor side pretty much filled with speakers so that they can blare out all the rock music or heavy metal or hip hop, whatever the kids wanted to hear. They got their own individual walkout songs. The kids in the stands, they had light up bracelets. I mean, dude, this is a pretty good time for a 1 o'clock start.
This was a high school event. If we had taken off the word high school, you wouldn't really be sure if this was a professional sporting event until you started looking at the size of the athletes. It's so cool. It's a concert. Everybody is having a blast. Look at all those people. Could you imagine, though, being the opposing school? You're already showing up a little bit nervous. You got to wrestle. Hey, maybe there will be too many. No, everybody's there. Everybody and their mother is there. And oh, by the way, it's all just one spotlight on you. So no pressure. so congrats to the Warriors.
Yeah,
for
big
being
time,
able to
man.
go into there and walk out of there not only alive but as champions. Next up, 6 out of 7 takes us to Cardington. It's Fredericktown taking down Cardington for the K-MAC title.
What I think is super cool about this game is that it kind of all boiled down to this one more matchup. Two teams tied right at the very top of the league, meeting for the second go-around. Cardington trying to get their piece of the K-MAC pie. Fredericktown, they've been coming on so strong here as of late, and this was kind of a back-and-forth affair until the very final whistle. But the Freddies, the favorites to win it this season, they proved it. They get it done. Hostile environment out there at the pirate ship. This was an awesome game. The highlights are proving that. A lot of offense in this. I think the Freddies ended up scoring 77 to win it. Off the top of my head, that's a ton. I haven't been at very many high school games this year where that's been the case, but the Cardington put up like 71 as well. So this was a sweet game. I wish that we would have had it live and free on a broadcast, but tip my cap to Justin Wilson doing a phenomenal job getting down there, capturing all this action, because this was one for the record books, and it's the Freddies that will be remembered for the history that they put on. Big win. And they are the K-MAC champs.
Well, congrats to the Freddies. I've seen the Freddies in action once this season as they pretty much dismantled Centerburg. So this is going to be a team to keep your eyes on, and fortunately, we got your eyes covered for you most of the time.
That's right.
We got one more, though, Brian. It's only at 6 right now, and if my math is correct, you need 7 to hit 7.
Just one more.
Just one more. We're heading ourselves... hold on. I got to set the stage just a little bit more for this one. So the awards season might be over with, but we all witnessed the greatest music performance possibly of all time. And no, I'm not talking about last night's Super Bowl halftime show. Okay. I'm talking about, well, let's just show the people.
Not Like Us, Kendrick Lamar.
Hey, Brian. How you doing?
Joe Baylog, welcome back, man. Dude, how was Florida?
Man, it was nice. Sunshine, warm weather. Spending time with my granddaughter. Man, it was great.
Awesome.
What you watching?
Just a rerun of the Grammys. I missed it the other night and wanted to catch it, and they're about to give away the award for Best Performance of the Year.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Here are your nominees for Performance of the Year. Beyonce, Cowboy Carter.
This ain't Texas, ain't no hold'em.
David Sheldon, you've lost that loving feeling from Coach's Corner.
You lost that love and feeling. Whoa, that love and feeling.
No way.
As selected by the 13,000 voting members of the Recording Academy, the Grammy goes to... Even if it's not you, Beyonce, I might just say it.
David Sheldon. This performance is even better than his win over Coach Joe and Ontario in their final meeting as members of the North Central Conference in 2013.
Unbelievable. Sheldon wins again.
That Sheldon track is hot fire. Oh my God. I gotta download that right now.
You lost.
Yeah. Actually listening to it right now. I just have had that track on repeat. I had no idea that Sheldon was such a star, but the way that Miley Cyrus had to break it down for Joe Baylog like that, a better performance than Sheldon's 2013 victory in their last NCC game, I thought that was a little bit cold and unnecessary. I feel like Joe, I think, had a slight upper hand in the head-to-head over the years that they played. So to just pick that one out, I thought Miley kind of took it a little bit too far, but Sheldon wins again.
Sheldon wins again, and I was fortunate enough to be live at that event, and it was elbows to elbows, standing room only at the studios of Coach's Corner. So I don't know if I'll ever forget that. Tattooed on my brain. I might have to get like him tattooed on my back.
Yeah, you see Taylor Swift, Beyonce, the whole gang out there swaying side to side. They couldn't help it.
They're all second tier to one David Sheldon. And now we're going to have to put up with Joe dealing with that. So that's your problem.
Yeah, that's a you thing, people.
So there's your sevens.
That is your lucky 7 for this week. Another great countdown list. I think a couple of weeks ago as well. It was just really cool stuff. Every 7 days, we're seeing some pretty awesome things right here on our network. So I don't know why you would ever tune anywhere else, especially not when it's girls basketball season, because you know who's got all the action coming up live and free. So I'm going to do just a quick dive. I'm going to look at a few of the brackets with you guys, the games and the teams that we're going to be following throughout their tournament journeys. And I want to begin with the Division IV Northwest 1 District, which is going to be held at Bucyrus. And here it is. So you see Bellevue. They are ranked number 4 right now in Ohio by Max Preps, and that's regardless of division. So they're in D4, and they feel like they're the 4th best team in the Buckeye State, period. So they're a big favorite to win, especially since the number 2 seed in Shelby, they beat them by double figures when they met a couple of weeks ago. The Whippets, though, by far the top contender. The undefeated MOAC champs, their 7th straight. They're going to have their hands full, potentially, though, in the semifinals. If they match up with Upper Sandusky, they've won 3 straight. They've got the reigning N10 Player of the Year in Grace Walton. And then Perkins, too. They had lost 4 of 5. They're starting to get it together. They've won 3 in a row. However, Bellevue slapped them around pretty good both times that they met. Those are league opponents. So Lady Red, huge favorite. Not just to get through this bracket, but I think to get all the way to the state Final Four. So will somebody pop up and get them? I think Ontario, they're going to have to play their best game ever this season to even contend and try to keep this thing within 20. So we will be following the action. Certainly we're going to have Shelby and Upper Sandusky. We'll follow each of those teams throughout their tournament journey. And then when they get into the Bucyrus district, we will have all the action for you guys live and free. Let's check out Division 5, the Northwest 3 district, which will be held at Shelby this year, where our Lady Colts of Clear Fork are the number 1 seed, the MOAC runners-up. Now, Bluebaugh and the awesome season she's had, she's in the conversation for MOAC Player of the Year, almost 19 points per game. Willard, the top contender here, 2nd in the SBC. They're an interesting team, though. They start the season 10-0. They look like they're almost unbeatable, 5-7 since. They played Shelby and Crawford really tough. Still came away with losses, and they've got kind of a younger supporting cast. So that team, we'll see if they're up for the challenge this year. Port Clinton, they've won 4 in a row. Before that, they had a little slide going, 3 losses straight. But Port Clinton, they've got 14 wins on the season. It's going to be interesting to see which team emerges. However, I do feel like Clear Fork probably would be a clear pick if you had to throw some money down, and the Colts potentially could be moving on to the regional for the first time under Scott Sellers. All right, let's show you guys now the D6 Northwest 3 district, which will be held in Willard. And Margaretta, the number 1 seed, the defending champs, they've gotten through this bracket many times in a row, except for obviously with the expanded divisions. Now instead of being in Division 3 or 4, now they're in Division 6. This is a team 10-0 in the conference. They've won 5 of their last 6. That only lost during that stretch to Bellevue, who's been beating everybody, but it was not a good look for them. Lost that game by 25 points. Colonel Crawford, though, the N10 champs, they got a lot of players that really like to buckle down on the defensive side of things. They don't blow you away with their offense. They do score about 45 points per game, but it's always a balanced attack. 5 players average 5 points per game or more. They bring a really talented freshman off the bench. So those 2 teams, I think, are destined to meet in the championship unless we see Brooke Frombaugh, Caroline Sheldon, that young team in Winford, the number 3 seed. They've been playing some pretty solid basketball this year. They're 15-6. I think they've got a chance. And then New London, too, at number 4, the undefeated Firelands champs. I feel like they got a really tough draw, having to go head-to-head with Mansfield Christian right out of the gates. Lady Flames are enjoying one of their best seasons of all time. They've got a really good defensive unit and some quality players. Zy Davis, others on the interior that are great rebounders. Like Bailey Nelson. So I could potentially see New London, even though they went flawless during the league, that they're going to have their hands full. They do get to play that one at home in the opening round. But certainly the Polar Bears, I think, are the team that everyone just assumes will get through because of how well they've played over the last several seasons. They've knocked Crawford out of the tournament the last few years as well. But my pick would probably be chalk, number 1 versus number 2 at Willard, deciding who moves on into the regionals. And last but not least, let's look at the Little Schools Division 7 Northwest 5 District. This will be held at Shelby this year, where Danbury earned the number 1 seed. I don't think there's any doubt about who that should belong to. 19-3, and then their losses too to Seneca East, Calvert, and Gibsonburg. So 3 pretty good teams. 16-2 in the SBC this year, which it's got some decent depth to it. So that 5-game win streak, they're playing with a lot of confidence coming into the tournament. But the number 2 seed, Seneca East, we just saw Izzy Stockmaster. She was Coach B's baller, voted into that position by you, the fans, just this last week. She's almost 15 points per game. And Seneca East, too, they've got some primetime scores on the team. That is the one squad that I think that you would say really could probably give Danbury a run for their money. Lucas, they're a young team. They've improved a lot. For last season, the number 3 seed this year. What a turnaround. You just have to give it up to the coaching staff over there, from turning a program that went winless to a 13-8 squad. Riley Trumpowers had a lot to do with that. The freshman's unbelievable. She averages 11-8, 5 steals per game. So I think the Cubs, they probably get through into that district semifinal. Can they give Danbury a test? I'm looking forward to seeing that matchup with the Lady Cubs and Danbury, if that's what we end up getting. And then Seneca East, I fully expect the Tigers to come out of that top part of the bracket, just because if St. Paul and Plymouth are the top 2 teams, we've seen each of them on the OH report this year, they're really down. So I think the Tigers, they steamroll their way into the district championship game. Do they get Danbury? Do they match up with Lucas? It's going to be fun to see it all boil down, and you can watch almost every game that we just broke down here. Most of them are going to be live and free on the OH Report over the next couple of weeks. It all begins for us on Thursday, where we've got a bunch of the sectional finals. Break that down for you real quick. We'll have that Upper Sandusky game taking on number 5 Clyde at home. We'll have number 3 Shelby at home against Lexington. Willard hosting Crestview. Clear Fork hosting Galleon, and Centerburg against Mount Gilead. All of those sectional championships can be watched right here on the OH Report coming up on Thursday night. So there's plenty of basketball coming your way on our channels all week long. A lot of boys games too, including on Wednesday night. Super duper excited, as I think the entire basketball universe is in North Central Ohio, for the Curdle Crawford at Mohawk game. 2 state-ranked teams competing for an outright N10 championship. You're going to want to watch that with Travis and Joe Baylog on the call. A whole slew of action. 5 boys games coming up tomorrow as well. And a lot of familiar faces and teams that you've come to love here on the OH Report. But Fredericktown at Hillsdale, that one's got a lot of juice. I think that's going to be a really fun game to watch. Northside Christian at Northmore as well. 2 really fun games. And then Lucas Clear Fork. It hasn't been a great year in terms of wins and losses for either of those teams, but I think Clear Fork's playing with a lot of confidence, and Lucas too. Just that rivalry, kind of that backyard thing where you can almost throw a rock from the Lucas Valley over into the Clear Fork Valley. Not that they would do that. It's mostly just fireworks that they set off at each other's expense. So that's going to be a fun game. I'm on the call for that one. And then Ontario at River Valley, a lot of freshmen out there. Can they upset the Vikings and knock them off of the top of the MOAC? You can find out live and free.
Brian,
all right, guys.
I
think I've
have made some new adjustments after watching yesterday's spectacle. I'd like to present to you the new OH Report podcast. Much more minimal. I don't have to do squats. Oh, you can't see it, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we just take away everything.
Oh.
We just put you, a logo. There we go.
This is what America's been clamoring for.
Yeah, less. Less
You're
is
welcome,
more. Yeah.
little minimalists. All right. Well, this is probably too much. We have my laptop and my phone
I
out
got
here.
you covered.
Let
New
me,
features.
Let me
There
turn
we
this
go.
off. I'm sorry. There we go. That's a lot more like it. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great week. Hope you had a super Sunday. And as you just saw there on our slate of games, we got a lot coming up live and free. We do it for you, the fans out there. So we'll see you out at a game near you. And if not, you can find us all over the internet. So long, everybody.